Hello and welcome back to Cosmic Compass. Today we're talking about something that is more important to prioritize than ever before. When the astrology gets insane, when the world starts to feel really intense and really heavy, one thing is needed, and this is prioritizing our nervous system regulation and our emotional regulation. And because this is something that I have been talking about on social media for the last several years, helping people slow down, simplify, and connect with their breath, this is something that's going to be even more needed than ever before due to the historic transits period of time that we're entering. And because of this, I really wanted to have a nervous system regulation expert come on the show. And so today's episode is an interview with Tana Vanessa, who is the founder and creator behind Feminine Anxiety. Tana is a professionally licensed psychotherapist, certified somatic healing expert, certified SSP provider, and she also does ART and is an anxious attachment coach. In this episode, Tana and I have the most wonderful conversation and share stories and examples of ways that you can calm your nervous system and have more emotional regulation in your life when life feels stressful, whether it's things that are happening in your real life that are making you feel a little nervous or fearful, or things that you're seeing on social media and the news. This is an episode that is timely and necessary, and one that I will be listening back to time and time again over these coming years. This is an episode that will ground you and help you connect back with your body, your breath, your intuition. And one of the cool things that I was talking about with Tana after the episode is Tana is an astrologer and uses astrology to help people with their attachment styles. And I didn't know this at the time when I had the interview with her, but this is, attachment styles and relationships are one of my favorite things to learn about. And there are ways that you can incorporate astrology with it. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. I hope wherever you are feeling safe and grounded, nourished and supported with Jupiter direct in Cancer. And I hope you have a cozy drink of choice wherever you're listening to this. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. And let's tune in to the show with Tana. How did you get started with this work? How did you get to where you are today?
To make this, long story short, basically just through my own experience of feeling anxiety in the past. I'm a psychotherapist, so I kind of am familiar with it, but not so in depth. And it was through my own experience of like, what's this anxiety I'm feeling? What is this? And how do I, what do I do about this? And so finding out about somatic therapy, and this was back in 2012, and seeking a somatic therapist. From there, I started to notice and understand that what I was experiencing, it's not flawed, right? I wasn't flawed. I wasn't weak for having panic attacks or anxiety as a therapist, right? Trying to navigate this, because it's like I was a therapist and I felt like I could do this on my own. I should know how to do this. And so being able to seek support, right? Like reach out for support was really helpful. And finding this work of understanding oh, wait, this is okay because my system feels like there's a threat. So of course it's going to panic. There's going to be anxiety. So learning about that gave me a sense of control, and I'm like, okay, I have to get trained in this. I have to share this with my clients, and that's just kind of since then, just slow progression into the work that I do now with my clients, and still with myself, right? It's like whatever is happening right in the world or just within our own personal lives, it's really being in touch with you, right, at the core of what's going on, listening to those signals in your body.
Yeah, this is such an important conversation, especially now in this. First off, we're in a very overstimulated time, where the internet just seems to be so noisy and loud.
Yeah.
And now with AI, and we can't tell what's real and what's not, and we're being
Mhm.
inundated with information faster than ever before. And on top of that, the emergencies, the crises that are happening in the world now, and I started back in 2023. I made my first YouTube video about the topic of, if the US were to enter war, if we were to start seeing more global issues and problems and conflict, the most important thing is that we know how to ground and connect with our nervous system. And that's such a buzzy word right now. It's everywhere. It's nervous
Yes,
system regulation. I
right,
hear it.
right.
I hear like 13 times a day online. And can you describe what is nervous system regulation? What is that?
Yeah, so there's nervous system regulation and there's also emotional regulation, right? And like those two can kind of live together and merge together. But when we talk about nervous system regulation, it's something that's triggering us, that our body is having this physiological response, right? Our nervous systems are going into a protective survival state because it perceives danger, threat, life threatening situation out somewhere there in the external world, right? Outside of us. And so that could look like heart is racing. I'm talking about right now, actually, the dysregulation of the nervous system, but, heart racing, pit in the stomach, we're bracing, the neck tension, rapid speech, we're not thinking clearly because our prefrontal cortex is, we're going to say, offline because now the survival nervous system is online, right? Like our survival state is online because it's perceiving a threat. So when we talk about nervous system regulation, it's how do we come back into feeling our core self, but also just being able to notice, is this an actual danger that we're in, right? Is this actually life threatening? Is the bear coming to eat me, right? That's like life threatening. Or is this just like, I don't know, whatever that might be, right? Something that isn't actually of imminent danger or something that's life threatening. And so the regulation looks like, oh, wow, okay, my heart is racing. And let's just say that there isn't actual danger, right? That's too physically threatening. So it's like, oh, my heart's racing. So I'm noticing this. I'm bringing awareness to what's happening. Maybe there's some energy in my legs that my legs instinctually want to move. So I'm going to maybe go take a walk, or I'm going to maybe go out for a jog. Or if I can't do that because for whatever reason it's 2 a.m. and I don't want to go outside for this walk, I'm going to feel into the instinct of the movement that my body wants to make. And the reason I say that is because with nervous system regulation, it's about the survival states that need to be completed. So if there's a fight or flight response, right? Fleeing is getting away from what feels scary. And so getting away is that adrenaline is going down to the bottom part of your body, preparing for you to run, right? Or if it's fighting, the blood goes up here, getting for preparing for setting boundaries, or fighting off, or expressing what needs to be said. So it's very much kind of being in tune with what needs to happen in the body and kind of completing that response, right? So
Mhm.
it's more of like there's been some sort of trigger, the body's having that response. There's
Mhm.
increase in heart rate, these things, right? That's the nervous system regulation piece.
Okay.
But then there's the emotional regulation piece, which is similar but different.
Ooh,
And
what is the emotional
yeah,
regulation?
and so the emotional regulation is probably the thing that we're probably looking for most. I'm going to say for the most part, right? If there's no actual imminent threat, and that's more of like, what's the physical sensation that I'm feeling right now in my body? So that could look like, yeah, let's say there's something. Okay, this is a perfect example. Let's say they are looking at the news and there's stuff, there's things happening in the world. So emotional regulation, or like what's happening emotionally, could look like, wow, I'm noticing there's just this dread, this pit in my stomach sensation. So the physical sensation, the felt sense of the emotion, because emotions communicate to us through the felt sensation in our body. It's not just like a concept. It's like, "Oh, I'm feeling this knot in my stomach as I just saw the news." So emotional regulation is about feeling into that pit in the stomach or the knots in the stomach. And we want to use adjectives to kind of describe these sensations because it's hard to describe the physical thing. So it's like, okay, it feels like it's
Yeah,
lumpy. It feels like it's heavy. It feels like there's a knot in my stomach. So the
totally.
emotional regulation is feeling into that, staying with that sensation for as much as you can without overwhelming yourself, and kind of slowly, again, each person's different, but usually it starts to dissipate the sensation because they're watching the news. That's not imminent threat, meaning assuming they're not in like, war, right? That they're just in the comfort of their home. They see the news, they're experiencing anxiety. We could maybe do nervous system regulation, but more so it's like, well, let's see what's the sensation in my body. It's this knot in my throat because of the grief the collective grief or whatever that might be. So emotional regulation is more of like the physical sensations.
I see.
Nervous system regulation is more of like what the body in that survival state of fight, flight, freeze. If it's freeze, it's like, okay, how do I slowly start to move my body out of this kind of freeze response, slow movements? And so it's more movement based, if that makes sense, with the nervous system regulation.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
lot. A lot of
It's
explanation.
kind of crazy we're talking about this because yesterday I was off my phone for 24, it was like 18 hours I was off my phone. I sometimes will hide my phone in places in the house that I won't know where it is. Sometimes just to like force a break from the phone,
Yeah.
like work and all that. And I got my phone finally out after a long time, checked for a second on Instagram, and I saw someone had made a video about me and misunderstood what I was saying about something in the astrology. And in
Mm-hmm.
that moment, my heart started racing. I started getting hot. My
Yeah.
eyes were getting blurry. Like my eyesight around, like where I was like
Yes.
sitting in town, just having a little appetizer in town. And I started like, it was blurry. Like my vision was getting blurry. And
Yes.
I like started like not being aware of where I was for a second. And I had to like
Yeah.
put the phone down and be like, "Whoa. What is that? Is that nervous system?"
Yes, that sounds like nervous system,
Okay.
right? Because
Okay.
there's like a physiological response happening, right? And
Yes.
it sounds like there was that we're going to say like that activation, something about seeing that being misunderstood, or someone is like,
Yes.
whatever that might be, right? That's like a
Yes.
great example because
Yeah.
there's all these because there's 80% of the nerves are in the body and they're attached to the organs and all of these things. So when we're talking about the nervous system, right, it's affecting our breathing, it's affecting our eyesight,
Oof.
it's affecting, like, we get lightheaded. There could be many different things that are happening, and each person's, of course, nervous systems are different based off their lived experience. And
Yeah.
so you were having that, right, that sensation, even though, right, that there isn't, because our survival states, our nervous system is, it's survival, right? Survival from being not being eaten by the tiger.
Yeah.
It's about imminent danger or threat. So in that moment, when that happened, your system, it's something about that. Your system's like, oof, this feels like there's imminent danger.
Yes.
It's
Threats.
immediate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I would say in those moments, right, for anyone experiencing this, it's like, it's not imminent threat. You're not, it's like, it's not that, right? And so when that starts happening, what's helpful is this technique that we call orienting. And orienting is, and we do this naturally. We do this just, if we were to sit here, we hear a noise, we turn to orient. Oh, what was that? Oh, it's just the wind outside. And then I come back here. So we do that naturally. But this type of orienting, from the somatic perspective, is intentionally moving your neck
Mhm.
while you scan your surroundings. So it's like labeling mentally what you're seeing. As you're moving your neck, you're being curious what you're mentally labeling. You are being descriptive inside your mind. You're being, if there's something pleasant to look at, you're looking at the flower, the red car that just drove by if you're outside, things like that. And as you're moving your neck, that's sending the signal to the brain of like, okay, in this moment, the tiger isn't here. In this moment, we're back at the cafe outside, drinking our coffee. We just seen our phone. In this moment, there is no danger. right? And so that senses, that orienting of movement and mentally labeling what you're seeing is what's sending that signal to the brain and getting you back into being in the present, that
That
there
is
is
so
no actual
helpful.
threat.
Yeah, that is so helpful. And
Yeah.
yeah, I remember thinking to myself, physically, I am fine. I am safe,
Yes.
and just
Yeah.
telling myself, I'm fine. I am safe. I am loved, and like those affirmations, so helpful when you're in moments of
Yeah.
stress. I don't know if there's anything scientific behind this, but I find automatically I always put one hand on my chest and one hand on my stomach. And there's
Yes.
something about like those two places of the body, like it instantly like centers me. Is there anything
Yes.
with that in like somatic work with
Yeah, I
those?
love that you naturally do that. Yeah, we a lot of us just kind of naturally do this. Even with my clients before I teach them to do this, they're just naturally just like, and it's kind of like holding yourself. It's like coming back to yourself, holding your core, holding you, being with you, right? So there's that piece of it. But we also have this nerve. Well, we have lots of nerves, but there's this one popular one called the vagus nerve. It's the 10th cranial nerve in the body. It's the longest nerve in the body. It spreads, so it's also known as like the wanderer because it spreads throughout, and it ends in the colon. So it starts in the brainstem, it comes through up to the front and ends in the colon. And when we're providing this type of nurturing touch in our body, right, where that nerve goes through, and again, we have multiple nerves, but that's the one that's the rest and digest, by also just kind of tuning into that nerve and just touching these places, right? It could be here, it could be here because we got the nerves going in here. It
In
could
your
also
face.
be here, and it could
Uh-huh.
also be the back of the neck, like kind of cradling the back of the neck because that's where it starts in that brainstem. Putting a hand here, these kind of places where you can provide that nurturing touch that can also just remind you, like, okay, I'm here, I'm safe, like you said, like doing those affirmations as well. Um, and oh, there was something else I was going to say about the touch. Oof, maybe it'll come back to me. But
The hand one, I read somewhere it's something about the hand, you put 2 fingers around, like, this point in the
oh,
hand. I don't know if that's nervous system, maybe it's something else.
oh, but that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've heard of that one.
Well, I think it helps improve focus when you touch the
Oh, okay, okay,
thumb hand section, but yeah,
cool.
it's
Good to know.
fascinating how
Yeah,
touch can, like, bring your body back into that
right.
calm place.
Yeah, and that we tend to do it naturally for most of us, and you seem attuned to your body, so it's like naturally, it's like, okay, my body just wants to do this, and this
Yes.
feels good. That's what I was gonna say. So there's a lot of somatic techniques out there, right? Like there's a lot of exercises and things like that, somatic, work, the nervous system, as we talked about. But what is important at the end of the day is that whatever techniques you're using, right, even if it's the touch, right, that you're tuning into your body to see, does my body want this right now? Does this feel comforting, right? And the fact that you kind of naturally did this means your body's like, yeah, this feels comforting, this feels good. But there might be other moments where we try to do this again and the body's like, yeah, this is no, I don't want this right now. This does not feel good. Or maybe this feels like too much pressure in the chest right now, right? And so this part of the somatic work, part of the regulation is slowly starting to listen to the signals. And it's a practice if we've been disconnected from our body. But it's slowly starting to listen to the signals of like, well, let's see what happens if I place my hand here. Because this felt good yesterday. And so I'm having the same anxiety. Let's see. And you're tuning in to see, does that feel good? How will you know? Well, if it brings a sense of warmth, nurturance, comforting, then your chest is probably enjoying the hand on the chest here. But if it starts to feel more like, oof, I'm feeling kind of like I'm suffocating or like it's starting to contract, then my chest is letting me know, yeah, the hand today is, or in this moment, I'm
Yeah,
going to take it off and I'm just going to
yeah.
be with what's showing up here.
Yeah, it's like honoring what your body wants. And
Yes.
also, someone once told me they thought that I had a strong nervous system just because I release my emotions a lot. Like I don't know if
Mm,
that's something with emotional regulation, but I
yes.
they told me that, the idea of like you when you're angry, you allow yourself to be angry. When you're sad, you allow yourself to cry. You release emotion frequently, and you don't repress or hold in or stifle emotion. Is there anything with that too? Is that emotional regulation? Is that nervous system regulation where you're like, that helps clear the body of any tension?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, very much, because when we're doing specifically through this somatic lens, right, through this somatic perspective, when we're learning about our emotions, when we're understanding that they communicate to us through the felt sensation, right? Um, it's very much like, if let's say we're feeling scared, and it's that, let's say, pit in the stomach sensation, right? So letting go of it would be that we don't have a narrative, a story. We're not identifying with the emotion because it's not us, right? It's just letting us, it's letting us know something. So a lot of the time there's a message there with the emotion. If it's fear, it's like, okay, well, what am I afraid of, or what's the thing that I need to get away from? But it's very much being able to, you know, sense into it without putting a story to it, so that it can dissipate, so that it can move through. When we add the narratives, right, which again, this is a practice because it's hard. When we're already feeling anxious, the anxious thoughts or worried thoughts might just come flooding in, and we go into overthinking and all of that. But if we're able to just notice, oh yeah, I'm feeling the anxiety, oof, it's a knot in my stomach, and just focus on, let's say, that sensation of the knot in your stomach, being curious about it without judging it, without being critical about, well, why do I feel this way? And I didn't feel like this a moment ago, and what's happening, with just being able to stay present with the physical sensation of it without the storytelling, right? And the narratives and the meaning making, without intellectualizing it first, right? Is what I'm trying to say. It can dissipate. It moves through as it should, because they're supposed to move through. They're not supposed to be lingering on for hours or days on end. It's supposed to move through when we focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is the letting go, basically, of the emotion. That's just like, okay, oh, it's doing its thing. Oh, it's the knot in the stomach. And learning, being aware that this is how it communicates these emotions, to not be afraid of the sensations, even if they might feel uncomfortable, right? Because when we're learning to first tune in, it can feel overwhelming to feel the physiology, right? Like kind of what you described in your experience with, like, it almost felt like just like tunnel vision, almost like blurriness. And it can feel scary of like, oh my gosh, what's happening right now? Like, what's going on with my body? And especially when we experience like panic attacks and things like that. And then we're reminding ourselves, oh, wait, it's supposed to do this. It's kind of like the porcupine with what are those things? What are those? I'm losing
The pins, or
the
the little
yeah,
the
when
prick.
it goes up,
Oh,
when it sees that there's a threat, right? So it does that
mm-hmm.
for protection. And the porcupine does that, but I'm sure, let's just imagine, right, as a metaphor, that in the process of those quills, no,
Quills?
spines,
Is it
is that
quills?
what it is?
I don't
I
know. I
think,
don't
I
know.
don't know, but in the process of those spikes coming up for protection, it's almost like there's a sensation that occurs within that body, right? It's like these
Yeah.
spikes that are happening in this porcupine's body, but it does that for protection. So I guess what I'm trying to say, this metaphor here, is that our bodies are going to experience the heart racing, the tunnel vision, the shallow breathing, because that's what it's supposed to do when there's a threat. And so when we notice, oh, wait a second, it's basically not being afraid of the sensations, even if they feel overwhelming, right? And so to have an understanding of like, oh, wait, okay, I'm noticing the heart racing. My mind is scattered. I can't really concentrate. Okay, this is my system. Something here feels threatening to my system. It's going into that survival state. That's how it feels to be in this state. Okay, let me do something to ground myself, like the orienting or some other kind of tools, whatever that might help, music to keep me back
Yeah.
into my body, right? So something like that brings you back in, so that you're not afraid of what your body naturally does. And then this goes with emotions, of what you were saying, releasing them. Because it's being able to notice the physical sensations, not being afraid of it, knowing, oh yeah, okay, there's a knot in my throat. Oof, it's feeling a lot. Um, and I'm going to stay with this. I'm not going to judge it. Um, and not have thoughts, because the moment I go into the storytelling is what keeps this here longer. But if I just focus on this, then it moves through as it should.
Yeah. I love that so much. Thinking about how when you allow yourself to cry, in the
Yeah.
moment that the tears are starting to well, is like that's the
Yes.
moment you need to release, like an example, my husband, he's a Virgo, and he loves to kind of keep it all together. He loves to kind of control his emotions, not allow himself to cry. And if he's feeling anxious, he just kind of keeps to himself and is quiet about it. And I'm always encouraging him. It's safe for you to cry. It's safe for you to feel. It's
Yeah.
safe for you to talk about what's bringing you anxiety and nervousness, because I noticed that when he doesn't talk or express about how he's feeling, his stomach, he gets all this tension in his stomach and
Yes.
it'll follow him all day long. I'm like, honey,
Right.
you gotta release. And so for me, I notice I don't have these like physical, issues, or like I don't hold on to things. I let things go so fast. Like if I'm angry at someone, it's like it's gone. I move on. I let go. I forgive quickly because I allow myself to cry, to
Right.
feel, to scream, to get angry, to say what I need to say, to put up a boundary. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done now. We're good. And it's like the energy is like gone, you
Yes,
know?
that's exactly it. Exactly. Exactly. Because also what you're doing there, when you're able to just be with it, right? Without a
Mhm.
narrative to it, whether you're able to feel into the
Yes.
anger or whatever that might be, you're also acknowledging your own emotional experience, even if no one else can acknowledge it for you in that moment, right? You're acknowledging your feelings and your emotions by being able to stay with it, notice that it's anger, not judge it or criticize it, just like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, okay, it's here, I'm angry, yeah, makes sense, or whatever, and then feel into it and then allow it to do its thing. Because
Yeah.
the process is that it's not supposed to stay there, right? It's supposed to move through, and the moving through requires us being able to acknowledge our own emotional experience, right?
Yeah.
Like
It's like an
feeling into the tension in the stomach, in this case, like let's say for your husband, right? Being able to like notice, like, yeah, I'm holding a lot. I feel like I have to keep it together. And wow, my stomach is feeling that tension. So let me, if, maybe put a hand on my belly if my stomach wants that, and like really feeling into the tension and
yeah.
giving it that acknowledgement without the story, right? Just pure physical sensation of the tension, and it slowly starts to dissipate, slowly starts to move through.
It's almost like thinking too much about a problem, or thinking too much about your emotions and trying to psychoanalyze them actually kind of hurts the process a little bit. It's like no thinking about how you feel, just feel.
Yes, yeah, I like that you bring that up. Exactly. It's like when I tell my clients, when we're going into the emotional regulation piece, right? Of like, let's say they're sharing something, and I might pause them and ask them, okay, what do you notice right now as you just shared that, right? And they might say, oh yeah, the lump in the throat. It's very much just being able to, um, yeah, just like feel into that, right? And just not, yeah, not judge it, not,
Judge
do
it.
anything with it, just being able to stay with it, be present with it. And yeah, just kind of like allowing it to just
Let
move
the
through, do
It's
its
like
thing with it.
letting
Yeah, without intellectualizing first. Then I let them know, okay, look, if afterwards you want to analyze, you want to reflect, okay, why did I feel that way? What triggered it? That part is important. We do want to include the mind, right, into this process, but we want to focus when we're talking about emotions, we want to focus on the body first. If we're doing that emotional regulation, right, or nervous system regulation, it's like what's happening here first, because then from here, once I move this through, once I tune in, then I'm going to get the clarity that I need afterwards to think about what was that about. Let me journal on that. But it's after, where once we tune in, because we don't want to lose when we intellectualize or go straight into why am I feeling this way, what's happening, and we go straight into analyzing, which most of us do this, right? We're not really taught to tune into our bodies, like we're not necessarily raised this way. Society just has us use the mind, and we do. The mind is important in this process. It is, because yeah, we do want to gain that insight or reflect on what triggered us, and or what was that about, and is there something here that I need to pay attention to. So we do of course value and need the mind, but we want to first regulate the emotions as the first step, And
Yeah.
once that's through, then we can, if we want to analyze it. But you said something there about the overthinking, where too much introspection is not a good thing. Too much like, well, what was that about? And was it me? And why was this the right? That too much of that, like you mentioned, is going to just kind of cloud your mind, get you to feel critical about yourself or like judgmental when we're doing too much of that introspection.
I know it's so interesting how I've just noticed and reflected in my own life when I'm feeling heavy and sad or I'm going through an emotion, I allow myself to feel it, but I find for me getting up and taking action in some way, like moving my body, dancing, putting on music, or just like, making something, creating something, taking action gets the energy moving. And it's like I'm not wallowing, I'm not sitting in a heavy emotion and like really just sitting in it. It's like, okay, now let's do something. And it's like when we have that clarity, and I find after motion movement of any kind, it's like the brain is so clear. After that movement, I find the introspection is then so helpful. It's like, when has this happened before? Like, what's a theme here that
Right.
keeps coming up in my life? How can I learn from this and move forward? It's like that growth mindset of trying to, improve your life in whatever way. But it's like, yeah, it's like the action first I find to be so helpful.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and it's great that you know, because this is all about attunement to your body, right? So it's like, hey, when I do movement, when I take action, that helps move things through, and then after I can go into reflect and
Yeah.
gain insight. So it's like that's great that you already know. It's like you're tuned into your body, and you know
Yeah.
what your body, and that's the most important thing when we're talking about the somatic work and the emotional regulation, because like I said, there are lots of helpful techniques out there, right? There's a lot of them out there, and they're valuable. And at the same time, you're always still listening at the end of the day to what does my body need? Does it need the movement? Does it need this technique? Let me try it. Oh, it doesn't, so it's very much like learning and tuning in to the signals of your body and what it needs. And so with emotion, they are messengers in the body, right? They get us to take action. So it's interesting that you said that, yeah, when I'm feeling something, I'm taking action in whatever way, whether that's moving my body or listening to music, something that gets me back into my body. And so certain emotions get us to take certain action, right? With anger, the action there is, what boundary do I need to set? How do I use my voice to express what needs to change, what needs to stop, which is, boundaries, standards, whatever that might be. know, if something feels unfair or unjust, or abusive or malicious, anger is there for a reason, to stop it, to change it, to, do something to be protective, right? With fear, that's another emotion that gets us to take action. And fear, the action for that is like, I need to get away from this scary thing, this thing that feels of imminent danger, this thing that feels like terrifying. And so fear is about getting away from it, running away from it. So the action there is running from the thing or getting away from the thing that is terrifying, right? So these things and these emotions, sadness, same thing with sadness, they just get us to take action, in whatever way they're messengers, right? So they let us know what needs to happen. What do we need to do here? And sometimes there might not be an action that needs to happen, because maybe that emotion, it's like we're feeling it, but it's like, oh wait, should not to question our emotions, but it's like, oh, I'm noticing I'm feeling really angry because I can't find the paper that I misplaced. And so it's like, I wonder what that's about, right? Why is that? Why is anger arising if anger is actually about stopping something or setting boundaries around something? But I'm angry because I misplaced a paper. So it's like exploring, well, what's that about, right? Because emotions again get us to take action, and losing a paper, where's the anger in that? I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah,
it's,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking in my head, my astrology brain about, emotions can kind of catalyze us to take action. I think of squares in a birth chart. A square
Oh,
in a birth chart, an aspect when you have two planets squaring each other, it's often represents tension or frustration or some sort of challenge. And yet, squares are really helpful in a chart at the same time because it is literally the catalyst that inspires you to get up off the couch and go do something. So I'm always
yeah.
translating things in astrology speak in my head.
I love that.
I'm just
Yes.
thinking about
Yes.
that. But that's incredible. And thinking about emotion and emotional regulation, one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I've been talking about this on my Instagram for a couple of years now about how the US, the world is going to be going through war honestly, and like challenge, and we're all going to be feeling a lot. And it's, I'm always telling my audience nervous system regulation. I always say box breathing is really helpful. You breathe in 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds. That's one of my techniques that I always go to.
Yeah.
Mindfulness, EFT tapping can be helpful. Um, but, having some sort of tools, and maybe it's not even nervous system regulation. It's actually more emotional regulation. Like when we're, seeing something on the news, we're seeing something on social media that seems scary. Maybe we see an astrology forecast or we see something happening in the astrology and we start to get nervous. That's where we're regulating our emotions. Is that right?
Right, when we're noticing, right, whatever we're taking in, right? And
Yeah.
we're noticing, oh wow, I'm starting to feel like I can't breathe, or like, oh my
Yeah.
breath, right? My breath is
Yeah.
shallow. And that yeah, that's exactly it. That's when we would want to use the emotional regulation pieces. But also, I mean, if it starts to feel like kind of your experience that you shared, just like heat is rising in my body, and like I'm starting to get like, my vision is blurry, like these stronger physiological responses, then it's really noticing what instinctual movement does my body want to make right now. Right, so
Mhm.
it is usually about action, right? Something that needs to take place in my body. Maybe I could put some music on and move my body. Maybe I could go out for a run or take a walk, or do movement in my feet if my feet feel restless, right? My legs feeling restless because maybe there is that fight or flight response, but I'm sitting down on the couch, and so okay, I'm going to listen to that instinctual movement that my body naturally wants to make. So I'm going to get up, I'm going to move my legs a bit, right? And then I could check in to see what other sensations of emotions, right, is in my body. Oh, well, I didn't notice that there was also tightness in my belly area, so I'm going to stay with that, right? And so yeah, it's like tuning in to that. But usually it might be, it's possible that a lot of the time when we're just seeing the news, and seeing the astrological forecast and things like that, that it's going to be a little bit of like, what do I notice that's happening right now in my body? There's an emotional charge or something that's going on here, I'm feeling it, and so I'm going to tune into it.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
acknowledge my emotional experience without judging and telling myself I shouldn't be feeling this way, or those thoughts that kind of come through our mind, right? But just by staying with the sensation that is felt in the body that arises.
Yeah. And asking yourself, where in the body is this? You know,
Yes.
s
Yeah.
sometimes I'll notice, like, I'll, like, really sit with my emotions, and I'll notice, like, "Oh, it's in the neck. Oh, it's in the
Yeah.
shoulder. That's weird. Oh, it's on the left leg." Like, you can pinpoint where it is.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And for example, that's a good example. Like, let's say it's in the shoulder, right? Let's say it's like, where in my body is this? Oh, okay, I'm feeling it in the shoulder. So sometimes what could happen there is that you feel into it, and then maybe there's an impulse to want to like adjust your shoulder, or like,
Mhm.
move your arm out. And so you follow, that's the impulse that you follow, that your body wants to do as part of that, regulation, right? So it's like, okay, there's this impulse to move my shoulder, it's feeling tight. And then, checking into, feeling into the tension then that's remaining there, right? In the neck, just like dropping in, feeling into it, paying attention to it without any story, without any narrative, any meaning making, just being able to feel into that. And it slowly starts to shift. Like sometimes the shift looks like, oh, it's just shifted a little bit, like 0.001%, right?
Mhm.
That's more than enough for the body. That's like
Mhm.
more than enough. So if the tension is like, let's say at a level 10, and you do a little bit of the work, you feel into it, maybe your body wants to move, you check back in, and now it's at, a 9.5. Great. It's titrated, it's small shifts that happen, and that is where the work is. So it's not this like kind of like grand thing of like, oh wait, I did that technique and like no, I still feel the tension. It's not about that. It's very much about attunement. Like you're tuning in and you're just able to feel into the tension. And even if it shifts just a little bit from a 10 to a 9.5, that's it. That's more than enough. And you practice it again the next day or later that day, and you just keep tuning into your body when the emotions come through, right, or arise.
Yeah. Do you believe, because this is something I personally feel, the intuition, the inner voice, the inner guidance system, I feel like it lives in the body because I've noticed in my own life when I've listened to my mind when it's stressed out and I take action on that, I usually have more difficulty or challenge, or the results are difficult. I'm trying to force something, right? Whereas when I listen and honor my body and I just, I calm down, I relax, I get into a grounded place, and then I ask myself questions. Like I ask my gut questions, I ask my heart questions, I ask my body, what do you want me to know? What's the best action to take? What's the next thing I can do to, support my audience? It's like I've noticed that my inner wisdom only comes from the body and not the mind. Do you have any theories on this, or what are your thoughts on the intuition?
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're able to just kind of listen and you're asking these questions to your body because the body is always listening. So, first off, I love that you do that. And yeah, I like to say that your mind gathers the data. It gathers the data, it whatever that data is, right? It's reading the news, or it's being informed by something, it's learning something, it's looking at something, and it's gathering the data. But your body is the decision maker. That's how I like to word it, right? So what I mean by that, right? It's intuition. The body's the decision maker. It's the intuition. But your mind gathers the data. So yeah, okay, we need the mind, we do, but we need it. If we're talking about intuition, we need it in the sense of like it's looking at the variables.
Mhm.
It's looking at the data,
Mhm.
whatever that data is, the information, whatever the thing is. But then at the end of the day, the decision makers is your body.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is it takes a while to kind of listen to the intuition, right? Because it looks, I think, different for a lot of people. For
Mhm.
some of us, it is that gut instinct, like, yeah, my gut's telling me no or yes. For others, there's a different sensation that arises. So I like to say, a lot of us have just a different way that it communicates. And it's a practice of like tuning in again to the signals in our body to start to learn how it's been communicating to us.
Mhm.
And usually we're going to get that clarity when we're not dysregulated, right? Or when we're not, feeling the highs of the emotions or the lows of the lows, but when we're feeling centered, we're going to have that clarity
Mhm.
to tune in, to listen into what is it, yeah, what is it that, my intuition's telling me here about this.
Yeah. One of the predictions I started giving years ago online with astrology is that this year, 2026, is the year where everyone's going to start wanting to move. Like everyone's going to start wanting to relocate or find their home, or just the question of, am I being nourished in this location? Is this place that I'm in actually supporting my values and what I want? And one of the things that's coming up, especially just in the last few weeks with everything going on with, the
Yeah.
war breaking out and the eclipse energy speeding things up, is like people are now wanting to move out of fear. They're wanting to
Mm,
relocate out of like stress and fear of astrology or the news. And I'm always telling my clients, like, that is not where you should be making these decisions, is that
right.
place.
Right.
Like, you've got to, you know, do what we've been talking about in this episode to,
Yeah.
because you know the answers that are right for you.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
no astrologer, no psychic, no guru, no one, can tell you what's right for you.
Mhm.
Um, one of the things I'm really inspired, you know, to contribute over the next years is like helping people take their own power back. And that is through doing all this regulation.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah. Do you have any tips or any like practical quick ways that like someone's traveling on an airplane or someone, you know, is seeing something maybe in their own life? Like I was just in Dubai and there were literally
Mm,
missiles going off and interceptions happening in the sky, and the alarms were going off in the middle of the night and it was like right outside my window. Like in those moments, if war were to spread in some way, that's the nervous system regulation part.
right, right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because part of it too, right, is like as we've been talking, that when it does that, right, when it let's say has that survival response, that fight or flight response, right? In situations where maybe it doesn't need to have that survival response because it's not a life threatening thing, right, or a dangerous thing. What it really is about is it's we're noticing when that's happening and noticing, kind of practicing that orienting, like, oh wait, right now I am safe because I've just scanned. I'm not just telling myself this, but like I've just scanned my environment in this moment and I am safe.
Yeah.
And part of this is that there's nothing faulty about your system. Your brain and body are built to remove you away from pain, to not have you feel the pain, and to protect you. Like that's its
Mm,
function. If it's going into that survival response, even if it doesn't need to, it's nothing is broken about you, right? It's like, oh, my system's working perfectly. However, it doesn't have to go into this, because I am in the comfort of my own home or, wherever, right? I'm at the grocery store. It doesn't have to do this. But yeah, if there's missiles flying through, right? Or yeah, the next country is being bombed or whatever is happening, it would make sense that it does have that response, that it does have that intense fight or flight response or freeze, right? And freeze is like think of it as like the gas pedal and the brakes on at the same time. And the thing I forgot to mention with these nervous system responses, right? These survival states, fight, flight, freeze. There's some other ones like dorsal shutdown state. But with these
oh.
survival states, you don't get to choose it. This is part of the autonomic nervous system. So autonomic implies it's automatic. I don't get to choose what state I go into. My body has the wisdom to put me in that state, basically, right? Based off of past experiences, it's like, oh, wait a second, we got to go into a freeze response, or we're just going to freeze, or we're going to go into that flight response, or we're going to run from this, right, or whatever that might be. And so if there is like in the situation you shared, right, you're in Dubai, you hear the missiles, there's an activation happening in your system. It's meant to do that because your system's like, whoa, what is that noise? And then it has content of like, well, this place just got bombed or all of that, right? So it goes into that. And in those moments, you're doing the work to come back into regulation. But regulation doesn't mean calm necessarily. It just means I can stay grounded. I could stay with myself at my core and yet experience these emotions of feeling scared or feeling sadness or feeling anger, but I'm not destabilized. So I forgot to mention that. That's really important. Regulation, when we're talking about nervous system regulation, it's not calm. But we can experience calm. We can experience sadness too. We can experience joy. But regulation means I could stay with myself. I'm grounded at my core. I feel secure. There's this internal sense of feeling secure. And yet I could feel the stress, have emotions. The
Mm.
difference is that if I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, destabilized, I can't think clearly, now that's a clue that I'm not in that regulated state. And that regulated state, the word is called the ventral state. Because in that
Ventral.
state, yeah, the ventral state, in that state, I have access to my intuition. I naturally feel confident, because that's just the byproduct of being in that regulated state. And I also feel grounded and I'm present and all of this, right? But I could have an emotional experience while still being regulated. The
Mhm.
dysregulation happens when I've lost myself, right? Like I don't feel steady inside. I don't feel grounded inside. And now I'm like spiraling in the emotions or in the survival state, right? So I would say in these moments where your brain perceives that threat, right, of hearing the missiles, that you understand that, like, yeah, this makes sense. Well, I'm noticing the activation, and let me help my system come back into regulation, right? Because although I hear it and I know what's happening right now in this place, I am actually safe. Like in this very moment, I am safe, right? And so how do I come, let me come back to my center where I can feel regulated, feel at the core, feel grounded, but still have some concern and stress of like what's happening outside, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that so much. That's so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about for any of you guys, listening that into astrology, it's like the moon in your birth chart is so big on
Mm-hmm.
like, is it freeze, fight,
Yes.
flight, freeze?
Yeah, freeze. And then the dorsal is more like that's where like depression lives, apathy,
Mm,
numbness, like dissociation. That's because the freeze is like we literally might like stay frozen. And then there's anxiety happening inside. So that's the freeze. And
mhm.
then fight flight is, also anxiety there, terror, panic. But with dorsal shutdown, with if we're talking about the nervous system, that state, it's your body has perceived something now as life threatening. Danger, at least we could escape from it. If something's dangerous, okay, we could at least fight it off or flee from it, is what your nervous system's saying, right? So we could at least do that. And we might stay into freeze, but then we want to move into a fight or flight.
Yeah.
In the dorsal shutdown state, now it's like, whoa, this is life threatening now. And so your system naturally shuts down. Shuts down just means things start to slow down. There's the dissociation, like meaning like I feel out of my body. I feel numb because again, your system's like, look, if we're about to be eaten up by a tiger, we don't want to feel the pain. So let's numb. Let's produce some chemicals to numb, right?
Mm,
Um, we said apathy, depression, a disconnect, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, like nothing's gonna change.
yeah.
Everything is just, gone, or, all of these thoughts that let us know, oh, we're probably in that dorsal state.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of these different states, but usually, it's becoming aware. If you're seeing the news, right, if in this case, you're looking at the astrology for the year, right, and like what's happening in the world, um you're looking at, or not just you, but like to pay attention to what's going on internally, like if it feels more like depression, right, or just a disconnect from yourself in the form of loneliness or feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, feeling like the things that excite you are no longer present there anymore. Right? This gives you a clue that we're probably in the survival state. We're in this nervous system dysregulation, right? That we want to shift from. And that's like that's like the one that's not talked about as often because we usually just hear fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
Um, but there's that state that's more like something here feels life threatening. And dysregulation doesn't mean a negative thing. The word kind of sounds like regulation means good, dysregulation means bad. It just means like, oh, okay, my system's in a survival state. Um, does it need to be, right? Like, is there imminent danger? Is there something life threatening here? There isn't. So let's get it back into regulation. So dysregulation isn't a negative thing. It's like, okay, everything, yeah, my system is in this state because it's perceiving a threat. But if there isn't really a threat, then I'm going to teach it that it doesn't have to go into this state.
Yeah.
So when we learn that, nothing appears negative about
Mm.
our body or our nervous system or anything like that.
Do you think social media has had a more, negative impact on our nervous systems?
There's more access, and what we're taking in visually, right?
Yeah.
These images or hearing it, and we have easier access in the sense that it's right on our phones
Yeah.
versus back in the day, television or a newspaper, and if we're not reading it, it's not so in right in our face, right? But because access to our phones and social media, I would say that it absolutely is doing something to our system. And also, depending on where our minds go with what we're seeing, right? Like the anxiety that then starts to create that overthinking, that, yeah, that just sense of distress. Our minds at times don't know that we're just watching the news, which is why we have a physiological experience, right? This is kind of like when we're watching a sad movie or a movie that moves us and we're having an emotional response. It's not so much that your mind knows, oh, Helena's just watching the movie that gets her to feel sad. And so she has tears in her eyes. It's like your mind is like, oh, we're feeling it. Like it feels like it's happening to your body. And so then we could just imagine what the body's taking in when we are watching the news, right? And we're feeling something.
Yeah. I was just thinking about how I heard this from someone. I can't remember where I learned this from, but when you're watching a movie or you're watching YouTube or you're scrolling on your phone, you enter a hypnotic state. And so everything you're consuming after about 5 minutes, you start to getting really relaxed. And in that relaxed place, you start really taking in that energy and it's true. It's like everything becomes true. And so that's why it's so important to be mindful of what you're consuming, because if you're watching a lot of movies about, men are awful and there's no good men out there in the world to
Mhm.
find love, and you're watching all these movies that have the same storyline, you're going to believe that as fact. Your subconscious is going to start believing that that's true. And then it's really hard to like reprogram it. And I reprogram my brain all the time through like meditation and hypnosis, because I just realized what you consume, you really do become that, and you start to believe that. And so I notice in my own life when I'm on social media, like I remember there was some big stuff happening in the news recently, and for about 3 days, all I saw was negative content on my Instagram, because the
Mhm.
algorithm works for like now, if you tap something, it's just going to show you the same thing over and over and over again from different accounts.
Right.
That's that's the new algorithm. That's the algorithm of 2026, is like you tap it
Yeah.
once and now it's all that. And so what I did was I was like, wait a second. I was like in a funk, in a mental like low state. And I was like, I've gotta change my algorithm. So for 5-10 minutes, I went on the explore page and I started liking and tapping all these random posts. I started searching
Mm.
topics that I want to start seeing, like cats and
Mhm.
animals, otters. And now my algorithm is literally otters and cats and funny videos.
Wow.
And
My
now my
goodness.
Instagram experience is so positive and happy. And it just takes 5 minutes to retrain the algorithm. But it's like, if we're not consciously aware,
Mhm.
we will get sucked in and then we'll lose our energy. We won't be able to take action and show up for our communities. We won't be able to show up in our businesses to support people because we're so
Right.
sucked in.
Yeah, exactly. And you just reminded me that, like, when we're talking about, let's say, getting triggered, right? And we're having an emotional reaction in our bodies. Um, it's through the senses. So yeah, anything that we visually see, hear, smell, touch, and so that, yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. But it's
Wild.
through the senses that, so if we're watching it, if we're hearing, let's say, I don't know, like just something that's disturbing, right, on social
Yeah.
media, and we're hearing it too, not just
Yeah.
watching it, right? It's again through the senses that then we get affected and impacted, and yeah. And so then the nervous system, or the emotional regulation, comes in, right, to just be able to stay connected with ourselves. If we feel like we want to be informed, okay, we want to be informed. But the thing is that, like, you're checking in with, like, what's happening internally for you, right? And being able to stay regulated, again, meaning that, like, you just stay grounded, but you can have emotions based off of what you're looking at in the news, right? If there's some sadness that happened,
Yeah.
somebody died, whatever, you can feel into the sadness, not have it destabilize you, because you're regulating your emotions, you're staying connected with you while you're able to feel into whatever's happening.
Yeah. It's allowing both to be there. And it's
Right.
like the allowance, the acceptance, the
Yes.
acknowledgement. Isn't that huge?
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's the acceptance and it's the acknowledgement. Because what's out there a lot with, like, in social media too, when we're talking about like nervous system regulation, it's very much like, um, regulating your nervous system, but the way it's implied, it's almost like, well, don't feel this way. Don't, or if you feel anxiety, let's regulate it, right? As if the regulation means to get rid of it or to like to go back into calm, which is
Yeah.
not, that's not it, right? It's not that. And so it's very much like you said, being able to accept it, acknowledge it.
Hmm.
That's the healing. That's the processing. Being able to be with it and acknowledge, like, oh yeah, this is here. Yeah, it makes sense. So let me just tune in to this like heaviness in my chest from just the world news and the political climate or whatever is happening. Like, yeah, let me just feel into this. To
Yeah.
regulate, meaning to come back to my center, to feel grounded internally.
That's the human experience, is to fully be in that compassion. I think
Right.
that's what makes us human, and why we're here on earth is to feel. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are on reincarnation and all of that stuff, but I
Yeah.
believe that, like, we came into human bodies to experience, but really to feel everything.
Yeah. Yes. I like
And,
that.
like, when we avoid negativity, when we avoid challenging emotions, we're missing out on the whole human experience of why we're even here.
Right, right. And I like how you phrase that, challenging emotions, because emotions inherently are not good or bad. Because we naturally have an aversion to things that are bad, right? It's like, well, we don't want to feel that. We don't want to. So I like that you say challenging, because yeah, the emotions, the sensations can feel challenging, but the emotions are not good or bad. They're just emotions. They're just messages in the body that want your acknowledgement. So you tune in and you acknowledge it. You acknowledge it how? Well, by feeling into the physical sensation of it.
Beautiful. This was
Yeah.
such a rich, depth-filled conversation. I loved this so much. I know my audience is going to adore this and it's going to help them so much. They'll come back to it time and time again as we get through these years. I know I will for sure be watching this again and again. How can people work with you? How can people find you online?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at feminine.anxiety, my website feminine-anxiety.com. And yeah, I do a lot of this somatic work. I specifically work with women, but I've worked with all, age ranges of clients as well. And yeah, that's, my focus is a lot with like anxious attachment, relationships,
Ooh,
but I look at the aspects in the chart as well, like you said, the squares, the
yes.
oppositions, the conjunctions, and I integrate that psychological astrology in that with this somatic nervous system work.
Oh my God, I love it. So
Yeah.
you use astrology and to help people with relationship, like attachment styles.
Yes. Yes. So I look at like
Really?
what's going on, in the aspects, like looking at the aspects specifically, and saying, okay, like, oh, there's here, right? Does it resonate with you? And a lot of the time it does, because it's like, well, what's in the psyche is kind of projected onto what's showing up in the chart. And so we look at it through that lens, and then we go into working with it, what's happening in the subconscious. We use the somatic piece. If there are like, the squares, right, where it's like, okay, there's that internal friction, that tension. Let's notice that what's arising. Where else have you had this lived experience in your relationship history, right? Or if we're looking at like the opposition, like, the projection onto the other, what are you projecting on? Like, let's explore that. Okay, and let's use some subconscious modality and somatic tools to clear that out, work with it. So I use it through that lens, and it's been exciting to work with my clients.
Oh my God, you're speaking my language. I'm obsessed with all of the things you're talking about, the
Yeah.
attachment styles, relationships, the astrology piece. That's so fascinating. So people can book a reading with you?
Yes, yes, on my website, feminine-anxiety.com.
And are you
Mhm.
you're on Instagram too,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I'll
feminine
put all
dot.
your information. I'm like so
Yes.
excited. How fun, how exciting. Anything else that you'd like to share today?
I just want to, remind everyone that like there's nothing broken about you. You don't need fixing. You have this innate body wisdom, right, internally, and it's wanting you to tune in. It's wanting you to listen to the signals that carry a lot of wisdom, and that healing is possible. We are not meant to live in fear or anxiety. Our bodies are naturally meant to be in this regulated ventral state. And so, yeah, so just being able to just tune in and have this new connection with your body, knowing that it's not failing you and that there's nothing broken about it. It's doing its job. It's protecting you. That's like its number one thing. It wants to protect you. So if it goes into survival state, just practice doing some of the orienting, feeling into the sensations, using the affirmations, reflecting on it afterwards. That's where it's at.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Tana. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me on and for sharing this.
Thank you for tuning into the podcast. I hope wherever you are feeling safe and grounded, nourished and supported with Jupiter direct in Cancer. And I hope you have a cozy drink of choice wherever you're listening to this. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. And let's tune in to the show with Tana. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cosmic Compass. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to let me know. Send me a DM or reach out to Tana and let us know what you thought of the episode. Are these kinds of interviews something you'd like to see? Do you like seeing other topics aside from astrocartography? And as a reminder, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcast downloads. Share a screenshot of you listening to the episode on your Instagram stories and tag me, or share with a friend. That would mean the world to me as I continue sharing episodes with you on the podcast every single week. So thanks for tuning in. Have a magical day, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy astro travels.